Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon here. I've been working on some things behind the scenes at the studio. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here as well, but wanted to give you an update here on a severe thunderstorm warning. It's been issued for locations up in Marshall as well as Benton and Tippah counties. A strong straight line wind potential, main reason this warning has been issued, kind of moving toward the northeast. With the speed there. We'll double check it. As you can see, Benton County, of course, as we mentioned, 415, Tippah and Marshall counties all involved in this for the potential for some gusty winds. And considering some of the wind damage we had yesterday out there in northern sections of Lafayette County, no big shock here that National Weather Service would want to kind of be as safe as possible on these storms. Get kind of a forward motion on this. And again, speed over the last hour moving about 20, maybe 25 miles per hour. Let's double check that speed here for a moment. This is a 1 hour loop. I'd show close to, about 20, maybe I'll go closer to 30 miles per hour. There's kind of this push back in. If you watch the first couple frames here, there's extra little push there, so that's kind of what's ushering that forward. So I'll clear that off for a moment. Yeah, we'll go 30 miles per hour, we'll say, on this. So let's clear that off. Get the new storm track on it based on that. Again, Ashland, Faulkner, both kind of in the path. There's our 30-mile track. Again, Snow Lake Shores, we're at about 334 for you, looking toward Ashland, about 342. Gravestown there, close to about 356. Wintontown about that same time there. Faulkner, about 415. And we'll be looking closer to Middleton there, up to the north at about 421. And if I go ahead and extend this a little bit farther beyond that, definitely has some gusty winds with it. And I can probably narrow down the locations just a little bit more. If Middleton, we show about 421 there. So that actually does encompass most locations on that. Let's look at the wind mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And in doing that, we'll look out of Columbus first, and we'll kind of look from Memphis next. Yeah, I think we're too far away from that. Let's just try the Memphis radar there. It does kind of show that leading gusty wind. I'm looking at a couple different angles on that there. Let's actually see if we're too far away to check it from the Tower Doppler weather radar. Now, we still got a little push of that. Yeah. So again, we're looking at the direction away there from the radar up here closer to the Memphis airport. So this still does a good job of kind of getting that big push there along Highway 4 moving toward Ashland. Again, the worst of this probably just a little bit through Holly Springs at this time, kind of moving north and east. As we kind of check some of the latest scans on exactly how fast it is. This only shows about 35, 40 miles per hour, but at that distance away from the radar site, we're also looking about 2,000 feet up in the air. So, obviously not directly at surface level with that, but some gusty winds trying to move ahead. Looking at some of the other thunderstorms we have out there, we do have another thunderstorm pretty close to the Oxford area, and I think we could probably utilize that Oxford camera to see a couple things, probably look northward toward this as well. So let's pull up our camera there in the Oxford area, and again, a lot of heavy rainfall, so not a lot of visibility on that one at this time as well. I'm going to log into that camera and make sure we're pointed the right direction on that. So give me just a moment here as I get onto that. And so, but of course, when we're trying to look through a thunderstorm like that, we're looking 300 degrees. So kind of obviously back into some of the heavier precipitation, certainly on the southern part of the Oxford area where it's heaviest, but kind of looking back into that. So we don't have a great shot. I'm going to try to move it northeastward. So give me just a moment to kind of look a little more northeastward. Oops, I think I might have overshot that just a little bit. So we'll give that a chance to kind of rotate around, but just a lot of rainfall on the camera lens there. No big shock. We'll come back to that camera here in a minute and check and see if we have some better visibility then. But a severe thunderstorm warning until 4:15, as you can see there, including Benton, Marshall, and Tippah counties. Strong gusty winds, the main reason why this warning has been issued. I'm going to go back to the precipitation mode here out of the Memphis airport, which is where we're kind of looking out of this here. Doesn't always do the greatest job on making it look super rough, and that's largely owed to the fact that this is designed to work very well for aircraft and for turbulence, which is why we always check it for the wind potential on that there. So while this is underwhelming, I think some of that stronger wind, there's Mississippi Highway 4 there. It's going to be really in this zone, Wintontown, back toward Faulkner, Ripley, maybe even Collegiate eventually on that. assuming about that 30 miles per hour. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for just a moment. Gabe, any information coming in from the Weather Service related to this at this time?
I have not seen any yet, and that is a fortunate thing because usually reports mean that there's confirmation that it's happening at the surface. But so far, I would say that it's just the warning that we're watching and kind of awaiting on what's happening at the surface to continue to be verified there around Holly Springs, moving into Benton County, just as we head further into that. I say that. Looks like we have power lines down around Highway 7 North and Highway 311. So that's coming from the emergency manager there in Marshall County. So that's a source that we trust, and we know that we're probably continuing to see that from those gusty winds at the surface. So that's pretty much it right now, Matt, but it's at least verifying that this is those gusty winds that we're watching, especially along that leading edge. Let's see, Highway 7 would be right there, so that'd be on the northern side of Holly Springs, and Highway 311. Do you know where Highway 311 is off the top of your head?
Here, hold on, let's get in close enough to be able to see it there. So would there be County Road 311?
It says Highway 311. I would assume it could be County Road 311 as well, but right along Highway 7, and it would have to be, between Atway and Holly Springs because...
There's Highway 311, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so there's the intersection of Highway 7, Highway 311, so right there. And it looks like there was a decent bit of a core as well as that rolled on through, so that would not be surprising to see something similar that happened to Tupelo on Friday with some of those stronger conditions at the heart of the storm. And there's a look at it. Probably a little bit of a hail core as well attached to this system. I'm curious in the warning, they said hail 0.88 inches, so about 3/4 of an inch on that. So possibility of getting some of that reaching the surface, but those strong winds, that's really what we're getting, just populating in a few of those. And of course, this is more aloft than what's actually happening at the surface. So the surface could be a whole different scenario. We've seen that on a number of storms this time of year. And so while it might read 50 miles an hour aloft, it could be 60, maybe 65 miles an hour at the surface. And that's damaging enough to knock down a few power lines like what we're seeing in Marshall County.
Yeah, so there you go, some power lines down. And that's usually kind of how our reports start in this situation, because people go, wait, where'd my power go? And then we start figuring out what else came from that. I've reverted this back to about 3:08. Current time's about 3:34. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here from the Room to Room Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. Ran out of the house this morning, left my suit up there. Been working on some stuff down here because I was out of town last week. So I apologize for the fact that I'm just in a white t-shirt. This is how I usually do most of my work behind the scenes. So I'll have to run home still and probably get my jacket and shirt and everything like that figured out here in a little bit, but we figured we want to give you a cut in here. You can see right where my mouse is there at the leading edge of this. Still about as strong as this has been there, so some sporadic wind reports. This actually has a little bit more movement to it than some of our other storms have had recently. And I'm going to stretch this out just far enough. I'd like to at the 30 miles per hour. Need to make sure that we have Corinth in that track, so make this more of a 40-mile track. And so we can see Kossuth, we're looking at about 441 for you, 443 for the gift community. Looking at about 439 there, Hightown, Collinstown 433, Walnut Creek 413, 419 there for the Columbia area. And in the nearer turn, obviously, Ashland about 340. That places it about 5 minutes from now. So some damaging winds likely moving toward the Ashland area associated with this as it moves into your region. With that in mind, again, I'm back on the precipitation mode here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. And you can kind of see, again, this radar running just slightly behind that. And I mentioned Corinth a minute ago. I'm going to make sure that we get Corinth into this. So let's show that as our first city, and that should hopefully get... it looks like that I have that still sliding, maybe just the slightest bit south. I didn't quite extend it all the way to the Biggersville there, so give me a moment. Faulkner, we're looking near term for you about 408. Let's make that our first city and see if Corinth, still not coming up on that there. So it's just at the end of our track. Make it 44 miles, and that should give it, there we are, 456. So again, that places it a little more than an hour from now, assuming only 30 miles per hour. Now, it could be going a little faster than that. So that's one of the things that we certainly will be watching, whether or not this picks up a little bit of speed there. We can't check our camera up in the Corinth area, and like a lot of folks out there, it's just kind of hot and steamy, sort of looking there near the Crossroads Museum in Corinth. We'll see if that going populates on our map here. Again, fairly steamy, but nothing that's over the top. 86 current temperature at this time, feels like around 91, that dew point at 70, and a lot of folks needing some rainfall. You can see some of the dark gray there on the horizon as that storm gradually moves a little bit closer. At least it'll be moving a little bit closer to you. Check our camera up here in Blue Springs, a series of cameras that we're looking at, and certainly the dark blue that you see there looking kind of toward the horizon, that blue-gray, this along I-22 looking back toward the north and west into those storms. Ahead of this, it's 90, dew point at 66, not over the top. And Gabe, I think, honestly, that could be something that maybe enhances a little bit of the storm potential as well, because if the dew point's not as high, that means there's some room there to get some downburst winds potentially.
Oh, for sure. I mean, a little bit drier at the surface, but I mean, yeah, this is a storm that's still entering an energized environment, so the potential for it to continue to strengthen is also there. I mean, that's really starting to bow out just a bit on the central portions of that storm, so worth keeping an eye on, not just for folks in Benton County, but Tippah, Alcorn, well into southern Tennessee as well.
Absolutely. Looks like North Mississippi Storm Chasers working on that camera there in the Pontotoc area, kind of looking back generally in a westerly direction there toward those storms that are out there in Lafayette County. As we bring it back here to Mississippi Live Weather Radar and kind of where it's currently showing, again, that severe storm north, a storm that's not quite as strong down here, Oxford, south along Highway 7 there in the southern part of Lafayette County, past the Taylor community, moving generally more toward Denmark and Potlockney and Cornish and locations around Takapola as well. This one will assume probably about 30 miles per hour on it as well. Again, a non-severe thunderstorm. That's not to say it couldn't have a couple of gusty winds, strong wind gusts from time to time with it. Let's extend that out about, we're going to assume 30. And then again, that might be a little fast on this storm. Put a loop on this here for the last 1 hour. No, I think that's maybe a little fast on this one. The one up north was moving a little faster. But let's get the track. Let's double check. Yeah, see, that one's about 20, 22 miles per hour. If it were to strengthen, it might get all the way up there to 30, but that's still pushing it. So let's do a track for the last, right there, and let's go about that. Let's go about 23, 24, and then we'll extend that eastward there so that we encapsulate Pontotoc, where we were just looking at a minute ago there. So about a 40-mile track. So Ecru about 443 for you. We're looking Portertown 345. Denmark at 359, Takapola about 316 there, Thaxton 323, and Randolph by about 431, if that can make its way. Springville area there, we were at last Friday with our meteorologist Gabe Maynor. We're looking about 435 for you. As we slide northward there, again on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, this is our strongest storm, and this one definitely is moving a little faster. A couple other things I noticed as well. Watching this loop, you can see a little boundary there that's helping this. This is kind of attached somewhat to the boundary, and that could enhance some of the wind speeds with it as well. So I'm going to clear this track off here for a moment. We're going to look back at the wind. We're going to go back to that reflectivity from that and the wind there from in and around the airport up in Memphis. And yeah, some strong gusty winds certainly with that. Let's check out whether or not there's any hail showing up with this there. Do show maybe a little bit of hail, but it's not a high potential on hail from either of our two main sites that we look at there. So it's a possibility maybe to have a little bit of that, but more than anything, again, I think it's strong, gusty winds. Now this does show maybe some hail with this, but that hail threat coming down a little bit more as we look at our severe threats here. Peak threat at this point would be more limited in nature. I'm going to look from Memphis as far as those threats are concerned as well. And even that hail threat looks to be somewhat more limited. Where you see here, half-inch hail, nothing that's over the top. Typically, this does a better job of hitting the extreme shear, the strong rotation with the winds. Checking the shear rate there, that's fairly limited. We would expect this to be higher if we had some rotation of concern. And thankfully, at this point, I don't see anything that's too terribly bad in that regard. So hopefully that is something that does continue. Current time is 3:41. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here as we're looking at a severe thunderstorm that's moving through sections of Benton and into Tippah County. For folks in Marshall County, again, we did have that one report near Holly Springs, and our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has been kind of watching these of some trees and power lines down there along Old Highway 7. It does look like, again, a car struck by a downed tree related to that as well at that location there. That would have been on the north side of Holly Springs there near the intersection of Highway 7 and 3. 311, right?
311.
311. That's where the location is now. No official storm report. Well, actually, I take that back. Official storm report just coming in from the folks there at the National Weather Service, and that's really small, but that basically reads the exact stuff that I said just a moment ago there. Does shrink the size of that from time to time just for that additional information.
Well, it looks like the car struck the downed tree, so the tree had already fallen. It doesn't look like it fell directly onto the vehicle.
Well, there's no real safe way to do it, but that's about as safe as that scenario gets. So hopefully, well, anyway, hopefully everyone's okay on that. Certainly our prayers are with those folks at this time. Checking our reports on our various chats here. Just looks like a lot of folks just tagging other people and watching them. Appreciate everybody watching. No storm reports really, it looks like, coming in here behind the scenes, other than that one from the storm report from just a little bit ago. Checking back here to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a moment. And Gabe, what you got that you're looking at?
Well, right now, National Weather Service monitoring Benton County as the storm becomes outflow dominant. So we are continuing to watch that for the possibility of a collapsing thunderstorm and some of those gusty winds at the surface along that leading edge especially. And I mean, you can definitely see some of those brighter returns on the east side of Highway 4 closer to the Ashland area and Bethel. So folks over there towards Benton County, towards Wittentown, especially in Gravestown, need to be paying attention to that. Blackjack's still not out of the woods just yet in Canaan and Brody, as that's kind of moving in that east-northeast track. You can see that severe thunderstorm warning encompassing exactly that. And so putting a storm track on this, you can kind of get an idea. Moving about, I mean, yeah, I would say 20 to 30 miles an hour on this storm as it continues to pick up speed. Gravestown 348, Wittentown 350, Blackjack 350, Canaan, we mentioned you, 351, Hamilton 356. Now this is Hamilton on the north side of North Mississippi, not over there in Monroe County. Walnut Creek 409, Collinstown 426, the Theo community closer to 432, and Kossuth, if this were to stick around for an extended period of time, 436. And I know there is a volleyball game happening with my wife at Kossuth around that same time frame, so I hope she's watching and paying attention, because the potential of that heading more into the Alcorn County area, definitely need to be paying attention to that for folks in Corinth and Kossuth if this were to hold together and continue to follow that boundary. But the fortunate thing is outflow boundaries, they are always moving. And so this isn't necessarily something that will be long-lived. It's how much of that energy can it take in before that boundary moves fully away. And so we'll continue to see how that outflow extends into this storm and when it moves all the way away. But looking at those extended tracks, I mean, we're talking the Silver Springs area, 424, Collins Crossing, 430, Theo, like we mentioned, 432, and Cuba by about 434 as well. Severe thunderstorm warning that is in place until 4:15. And as Matt was mentioning, the main parts of this is because of those damaging wind gusts, especially along that leading edge. So I know the National Weather Service is talking about the TMM radar. Is that the airport?
Yeah, that would be the one we have up there.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you can get those brighter returns, as you can see, just right along Highway 4, following that highway, moving into Benton County. So folks in Faulkner, Ripley, not out of the question, 405 for you guys. And then by the time it reaches more towards the Brownfield area, 417, Kossuth still on that extended track, going to be closer to about 445 or so into Alcorn County.
So specifically on TMEM, what were they just talking about? How the enhancement's very obvious there?
Yeah, outflow dominant with a strong velocity signature is what they said, and I mean I would agree based off of looking at some of those radar scans. And we can populate in some of those winds that we're getting, but this is still how high aloft are we?
We are about. Hold on, let me double check here. Make sure that's correct. Hold on, it is not giving me a good distance aloft. Let me double check something here. Good reflectivity. There we are. So where I'm clicking right there, we are about half a mile up. So, you know, whether it's 26, 30 miles an hour, half a mile up makes less difference in what's coming down out of the thunderstorm, right?
And these storms this time of year are not exactly the same thing aloft as they are at the surface. And so getting storm reports, and this is why it's so imperative that you guys do exactly that, is give us those storm reports, is because we forward that information to the National Weather Service so we can get an idea of what these storms are capable of at the surface based off of what they look like aloft. Last week we were able to do exactly that with hail, because although we were getting signatures aloft of about 1 inch to 2 inches, what was actually happening at the surface was 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch max. So you guys help us with those storm reports, whether it be hail or if there's any damage on the back end of these storms. So that storm report, as we got back there towards Holly Springs with that thunderstorm wind damage of that tree that fell over and the car that struck it on Highway 7 and Highway 311. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with them, but those reports help us get an idea of what the storm is capable of, and more of that is possible as it moves along Highway 4, extending into the Ashland area and then on into Faulkner here in the next hour or so. So it remains to be seen what exactly is happening beneath that storm right now, but I'm sure we'll get a few reports as we head into the next half hour or so, Matt. So we'll continue to keep eyes on the chat right here to let folks know what exactly is happening, but it's always after the fact of whenever we get those reports to kind of get an idea. So yeah, Storm Track has it moving more into Benton County here in the coming minutes. So folks in Gravestown, Faulkner, Brownfield definitely need to be weather aware as we head into that 4:15 hour.
Absolutely. Double check if you would to see if anybody submitted anything. You know, the Mississippi Live weather app in this situation, and I think we can pull that up over there. Yeah, is a great opportunity for you to share your photographs. We can then share those with the National Weather Service on what exactly we are seeing in this situation. I appreciate all the folks who do that, do share that with us. It certainly makes a difference on making sure the people ahead are in good shape. So again, Blackjack, you're the next community in line here at 3:51. Current time is 3:48. We're looking at Brownfield by about 4:08 and closer there to Silver Springs by about 4:33. And the Collinstown area about 4:37. This is a strong winds, perhaps damaging winds with this new little enhancement showing up here. And I'm going to check three-dimensionally on this thunderstorm, kind of see what else it has going on aloft, just to make sure we have a good full assessment on this. I'm kind of looking at this here. This would be, I believe, from the Memphis radar. So I'm going to see if it'll let me change this over to the radar in Monroe County. Yeah, similar assessment on this. So let's go ahead and cut through all of the noise to just the heaviest portions of this. So then from there, we can kind of check and see how this is behaving. Again, severe thunderstorm warning until 4:15 Benton and parts of Tippah County. For locations in Marshall County, that'd be over here, of course, Lake Center, Holly Springs. You're past the worst of this. No more severe weather threat from this storm for you. Now, let's compare what it looked like when it did produce some severe weather reports just a little bit ago. That'll give us an idea of what it's capable of. And clearly here, let's just stop here for a second. For comparative purposes, Gabe, I'll just have your eyeballs on this as well. As you can see, this is what it looked like when it was kind of at peak and produced that damage there, better part of around 20 minutes ago, close to Holly Springs, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're looking at there is certainly a very intense return. It does show that extending up with some of those more intense returns, more than 20,000 feet. Now compare how things have evolved in the last little bit here to where we're at right now. So certainly a lot smaller, and size does matter in this scenario here for how impressive these thunderstorms are. So we'll go and see if we could slice into it and slice along it. And I still show some intense returns up about 10, 12,000 feet, but it's largely collapsed. So I would say at this point here, again, and this part goes back to that outflow dominant part that the National Weather Service was mentioning, keying out some of those stronger wind gusts. But at this point, in somewhat of a collapsing phase as opposed to still building and maintaining phase. So decent number of lightning strikes, but this scenario, because these red blobs just aren't quite high enough, thankfully, that means it's still definitely capable of kicking out some strong gusty winds, but maybe not at the severe level where it's knocking down power poles, things of that nature. A reference to power poles, let's double check here for a moment. As far as power outages are concerned, there's always a little bit of a delay between when we get those reports in, when they show up on here. We do have a couple reports of power outages back toward around Panola County. Again, we also have that thunderstorm in the Oxford, Lafayette County area that we're watching. 200 power outages with that as of last report. So still awaiting some of those reports. We'll have to double check, if you would, Gabe, on poweroutage.us and then go to the specific local provider for Marshall County just to kind of check and see what those reports are related to this. Come back here to the precipitation mode on Mississippi Live Weather Radar. Again, our storm there in Oxford, really south of Oxford, a lot less impressive over top of the Oxford area than was just a little bit ago. Here's a check there of our camera in Oxford, and there's actually some visibility, which is a serious improvement as far as that is concerned. I'm gonna pull up that Oxford camera and we will pan it a little bit back. We're already kind of looking northeast. Let's look southeast out of this. So if you give me just a moment to do that. Unfortunately, we looked kind of through the tower, but there's nothing but some gray out there to look at with our North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters camera there in the Oxford area. We're looking just kind of south of east, so we'd be looking into that heaviest rainfall, and certainly the heaviest part is past the city at this point and time. We'll check our other camera there in Pontotoc, and I will kind of bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a second. Yeah, Gabe, what were you going to say?
I was going to say Strickland Road, just southwest of Byhalia, has about 68 outages. So that's where the outages are happening right now, right along Strickland Road and Myers Road, close to the on-time diesel repair area east of the Ingram's Mill Community Center. So that's the outages that we have so far in Marshall County. There are other outages in Panola County, tracking about 226, and I need to check Tallahatchie Valley Electric Power Association as well as Entergy to get a look at where those outages are happening. But Panola, Marshall were kind of our focal points. Lafayette has a couple of outages, but I don't believe that's anything storm related as of this point. But
well, we do have that one storm there, but it's
only 3 outages though. And I know it's kind of taking a second to populate in, so it might be more coming, but as of right now, it's not a concerning number.
Yeah, not at all.
But 226 in Panola is definitely one that stands out.
Okay, there we go. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate that report coming in there. So again, some power outages, not a ton, thankfully at this point. That Pontotoc camera there was looking back into this thunderstorm. We show about 300 lightning strikes in the last half hour out of this one, which is similar to what we have up north. So let's go ahead and check some of the wind potential out of this, which is a little bit stronger on the south side, closer to Portertown there. That's where we expect it. We'll check from a couple different sites up toward Memphis area. And I think we're just outside the good usable range. Yeah, this is looking for that radar at the Memphis airport. Not good usable range at that there, but still showing some gusty winds. So we'll go and track that one. This one's only moving around 20 miles per hour. So again, we'll take that and we'll extend that out to, let's say, 25 miles per hour. We'll go 26 just to get it out there to get a time for folks there in the Pontotoc area. We'll get to that number here in a minute. Yokna, of course, over top of you right now. We're looking at Denmark at 401, Tula at 406 there, Lafayette Springs 412, Sarepta about 427. This is below severe limits, but Hurricane, we're looking for you at about 428, closer to Randolph about 431, and Possum Trot at 434. I'm going to see if I can make it cycle through a few other cities. So give me a moment here to kind of make it go Thaxton. I don't know if I called that Thaxton 423 for you. And as we select that and kind of make it go through, we show Pontotoc about 450, Ecru at 444, and the Pinnell community about 437. Again, some gusty winds. Pretty good chance that this probably falls apart before it gets through a lot of those spots. Here's our 1 hour loop. As you can see, again, kind of working its way eastward with largely just some moderate to heavy rainfall associated with that. Current time is now 3:55. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor here from the Mississippi Live Weather Center, our room-to-room weather center. And what we are at this time, of course, tracking some isolated showers and thunderstorms out there. But one thunderstorm that has prompted a severe thunderstorm warning, definitely in the downswing stage at this point. I would say the worst clearly past Ashland. And if I go ahead and see if we can just completely pop off the precipitation mode here for a second. So let me see, I should be able to pull that off. There we go. The reason I pulled all that stuff off for a second is I wanted to highlight the lightning strikes there. Notice the number on this. And if you just look at the individual strikes, you'll see less and less of those out here farther east. Bring in the last scan. Here's the point. See how our most eastward lightning strike out of this batch is just on the east side of Ashland? If I put the precipitation on it, you see the rainfall extended beyond that. So this is collapsing. And so I would say the severe weather threat related to this thunderstorm is now past. There's still some time on this severe thunderstorm warning till 4:15. It's not possible something changes, but I would say we're more in the 40 mile per hour range than 50 to 60 mile per hour range up here in Tiplerville or Collegiate or Faulkner or Walnut Creek. By the time it makes it there, unless there's some kind of big rebirth, this is largely collapsed. And one way, again, we can show that is using the three-dimensional version of Mississippi Live Weather Radar here. And yes, yeah, that very clearly shows this. So when we kind of cut this down to where it's just some of the more intense returns, the brightest thing showing up there is what we'd say is 55 dBz. So notice how I've completely killed the thunderstorm, or I've eliminated our ability to see it, right? So because that's as heavy as anything is. Now, if we go back and we keep the radar in the exact same mode and you bring it back here closer to Holly Springs, and this is when that warning was issued, see how we have something there and we had nothing farther east? So that tells me, again, this has gone through a major collapsing phase. And so the severe weather potential in my mind, based on that, because again, as we kind of advance this forward, all that heavy precipitation there, when it was near the Marshall and Benton County line, is largely collapsed out of this there. And yeah, I'd say we're past any severe weather potential on this as well. I'm bringing Gabe here for a moment and let him take a thought on that. And then as necessary, I'll let him close us out of this. But I think we'll probably wind down our coverage unless you see something of significance, Gabe.
No, I would say just let folks know that power crews are out working right now. We do have, if you want to pull it up on the computer real quick, Matt, I have outages for Tallahatchie Valley Electric Power Association. We're currently reporting about 175 outages. That's going to be...
You want that on the band behind you?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can pull it up to where... yeah. So there's a look, 151 outages just on the west side of Batesville, right along Highway 6. So showed you that those thunderstorms there in the Oxford area were significant, especially back there towards Panola County. And even on the east side, about 24 outages reported. So folks are out and about trying to restore that here shortly. So give crews a little bit of grace. They are out working right now in this rainy weather, and it's not exactly ideal work environment, but they're trying to get it restored as quickly as possible. And as we mentioned, there were other outages there in Marshall County, probably getting more additions to that number. So it's going to be a lot more people that they have to get to in order to restore those outages. So as of right now, I agree with you. I think that we are on the collapsing phase of that thunderstorm. Watching it behind the scenes though, if anything were to increase here in the next few minutes, we'll definitely cut back in as necessary. But I would say we're much better shape than what we were 30 minutes ago.
Absolutely. And honestly, even a better shape than we were an hour ago, largely. Because if you, instead of, let's say, a 1 hour loop here, let's make this a 3 hour loop, you can definitely see how we had the upswing of storms. These kind of grow upscale into this, lot more dark red, and then weakening more as they work their way eastward. That's to be expected. The severe weather risk was largely to the west of us today, and will move more into our area for tomorrow as well as Wednesday as things get a slightly more aligned. So this kind of getting things up and going slightly earlier here. And appreciate you for watching us here in the Room to Room Weather Center on Mississippi Live Weather. Current time should be just right at 3:59, almost 4 p.m. at this moment here. I'm going to put this into a 1 hour loop for us. And so, yeah, for folks that are farther ahead of this overall line, I would say the speed of this thunderstorm grouping is probably diminishing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do kind of a wider track here. And this is not going to have every small city on it like some of them typically do. I'm going to take this down to, we'll say 26 miles per hour, and that might be a little slow. Give me a moment as I try to make this show. It'll be some slightly larger locations. We'll make this a 45-minute loop. Actually, let's go out a little farther than that. Let's go 45 miles. Let's go 65 miles there. That'll take us basically to the state line. And so, as you can see there, if this continues working its way eastward and we continue to have about 45 miles per hour at that speed, we're looking about 406 generally speaking for Blue Mountain, Ripley about 415, Toccopola at 420, Thaxton 427 there, Eckrute 446, Algoma 450, 452 there, Pontotoc, Ryanzi 510, Corinth at 513, Boonville 515 there for you, and eventually toward Guntown 523, Tupelo about 530 or so, Saltillo about 532. Looks like I have a group chat that's decided now is the time. So we'll mute that for a second. Verona about 532. The reason you have multiple times, by the way, in Tupelo is it's detecting different parts of town, cross town versus, I think that second Tupelo is actually our location there near Fair Park. So let's go ahead and we'll take off the first few locations there in that so that we can kind of extend that closer to the state line. We show 611 if that holds. Again, 25 miles per hour there for the Fulton area, Belmont about 620. And again, we're guesstimating about 555 Iuka and Burnsville about 539. So some strong gusty winds with this as it moves eastward. I think the severe weather risk at least based on what we're presently looking at, none of those storms are at that level. And it would probably take a bit for this one up here around Oxford to probably strengthen quite that level. So I think largely we're in okay shape. I do want to bring this back over here to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, for a moment. Gabe, what are you looking at in the room-to-room weather center?
So going back on radar here real quick and looking out of Monroe County, we can see what we have a little bit of an outflow boundary along the west side of Monroe County. So I'm going to clear this off here real quick. And you can kind of see right there over Saltillo, Tupelo, and Shannon. How that interacts with this line as it kind of starts to push in will be something that we need to pay attention to there for Lee County and Prentiss County for the potential, I'm not going to say strengthening, I feel like that's going to be a stretch on these storms, but at least re-energize a few of these to maybe produce some decent downpours or a few more strikes of lightning. So I'm really curious to see. And also, that is an outflow, right? Like that's not bugs?
So I don't, maybe loosely an outflow. So here's my thought on that. So let's see, yes and no.
Because it had very little movement to it behind the scenes. And I was looking at it again and it's like, you know what, that might not be.
So it kind of is. It is a boundary, but what I call it an outflow, maybe just sort of. Okay, so let's talk about that. What
Sorry
Gabe's
to make
looking
another
at there.
thing real quick.
No, that's okay. So these are kind of feeder bands. So I mean, you're looking at what we're looking at here is clear air returns. This is not rainfall from most of this. This is just bugs and things being carried by interactions of the wind. The bugs, what we call biological matter, then reflect back energy, and so the radar is able to kind of see the movement of the wind just based on the movement of the bugs. And so you do have a few areas there like convergent bands, for lack of a better way to put it. Right there, the one you're looking at, Tupelo, is probably an outflow from that storm. Was not particularly significant one, but actually that one was a decent storm about 2 hours ago, if memory serves. Let me go back here, I'll make it a 3-hour loop, and then we'll adjust it back. Yeah, so that did start with that one that was down there closer to Aberdeen. So yes, I would say that is an outflow there, but you just have a lot of these other little areas that are also kind of more convergent bands. So yes, I would say that that is reasonable, that's an outflow there up toward around Boonville, kind of expanding in. I don't know that it has a ton to work with there, or for that to necessarily get attached to in any way, shape, or form. But I do think, again, that is a sign that there are some boundaries out there, a little added convergence, and perhaps that could help a few of these to strengthen a little bit, possibly, in certain situations. So I would go ahead and give you a check mark on outflow there. I'm going to leave whether or not the outflow is constructive or destructive to be determined.
So
How's
a passing
that sound?
grade at the very least.
Huh?
A passing grade at the very least.
I'll give you a passing grade on that. So anyway, okay, and I'm just going to double check our chat with all of you guys there behind the scenes on Facebook and what you're letting us know. Some folks just talking about seeing some movement in the clouds. I do not see a lot of folks there, and appreciate everybody for commenting. A few folks mentioning the fact my outfit for severe weather has changed. No, I'm working on stuff behind the scenes here at the station. When you own something, you're in charge, and you're also the engineer and the general manager and the meteorologist. From time to time, you got to get stuff done in whatever outfit you can. So that's why I'm wearing this. So typically, we will be in a suit. We'll be with suspenders. We'll be the whole thing. I was just working on some other stuff. Tomorrow and the next day, probably a little more likely to have a couple more of these produce some sporadic damaging wind. I do want to address the fact that we do still technically have a severe thunderstorm warning out there for locations up here in Tippah County, but as we mentioned earlier, this is past the severe potential in my mind. As we kind of show the latest on this here, I would show the wind. Well, we're just past the best usable range on that, but it's nowhere near what it was just a little bit ago. So it's gone through a bit of a weakening phase on that, but still maybe some sporadic wind damage, tree damage, because we are in expanding drought up near Tiplerville, Collegiate, Brownfield, kind of in the path of this there. So another 9 minutes or so left in this severe thunderstorm warning. With that in mind, Gabe, I will probably hand the coverage over here in Chroma Key over to you as far as that is concerned, to kind of wrap this up, and then we will shut this down after that because I got to go home and get a suit.
No, they say
Or else people really have some questions, right?
they say you wear different hats, but in this industry you wear different shirts.
I do wear different shirts.
But yeah, exactly right. I mean, this is a collapsing thunderstorm that is not nearly as impressive as what it once was. Still getting decent outputs with about 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts, and as Matt mentioned, could knock down a few of those power lines, or especially trees with how dry those conditions have been, or if you're in the Maynard household, a few garbage cans as a result. But that's really where we stand right now. And looking at reflectivity mode, I would say that we're not overly impressive on that. Lightning distribution, I mean, we typically expect more strikes as time goes on for an intensifying storm. And I would say, comparatively speaking, we were talking about 200 plus. Now, about 100-ish. So definitely on the better terms in regards to speaking on that. Keeping eyes on this one down there towards Oxford, we are continuing to get lots of lightning with that as it moves towards the Altus, Denmark, and Tula community. We can do a track on that, but first I want to check the winds on this and just go, on the velocity mode. And still not overly impressed on those, so we're going to keep eyes on it behind the scenes, but this is more going to be an electric downpour rather than anything worrisome with wind or hail or anything of that matter. So if we track this out over the last hour, and as of right now, 4:08, so we'll go back to about 3:08 on this, and bear with me while we do some math real quick. So right there, extend it out. And this has started to speed up just a bit. So, I mean, we're talking about, I would go up to 20 miles an hour, 15 to 20 miles an hour on this storm I feel good about. And so we'll do that on the latest scan. Let me go to now, and let me, of course, get that track ready. Along that leading edge, it's going to be for the heaviest portions of this storm. And that's moving again towards the Thaxton, the Takapola area. And here you get a look at that storm track. And we're talking about areas Denmark 413, Cornish 414, Tula 414, Lafayette Springs 431, Dogtown 432, Takapola 445, the Thaxton area 453, and on there towards the Buchanan area by around 507 if this were to even stick together. And honestly, this is just going to be the heaviest portion of a line of good rain chances. This is something we need for the drought, especially because we are still in desperate need of rainfall. So as that continues to progress on through, just putting it on a 1 hour lapse, you can kind of get an idea that everyone getting a drop here and there, at least most of us getting a drop here and there, and that is going to be very beneficial out there in the Delta, and even for folks right here in the Pontotoc, Union, Chickasaw County area as those showers continue to progress on through, especially if they can do so, not reaching those severe limits. So looking at chat, I want to make sure that everyone is kind of taken care of. Wear suspenders over your t-shirt. Might consider it for Matt. I'll definitely forward that to him. But yeah, no tornado activity is expected with this. This is going to be more of the wind/hail event. That's typically what we get this time of year as we wrap up summer and technically start fall today. What a welcome to the fall season, right? But no severe, no tornadic weather is expected, should I say. But you could get that potential for a severe thunderstorm if the elements were to line up just right and one of these were to form very briefly. That's what we had with that severe thunderstorm warning over there in Marshall, Benton, and Tippah County, and that, of course, expiring here in the next 5 minutes or so. So I'd say that we are good to go ahead and wrap this up. I think that you guys are good to keep on with your day. Just have that umbrella handy because a lot of folks still getting a good bit of rainfall as we move further into our Monday afternoon and evening. So for any of those ball games, going to get a decent rainfall over there towards New Albany and Pontotoc. And even here in Tupelo, fingers crossed, because we all need rainfall over here. But I would say that we are looking better and better as each minute passes, so we will go ahead and wrap it up. Our next broadcast happening at 5 o'clock this evening, so make sure to tune in. We will be tracking the latest on these showers, latest on these warnings if one were to be issued again, but we don't foresee that as of now. But we'll keep eyes behind the scenes just in case. So stay tuned. We'll be back for the very latest coming up here in about 45 minutes or so. And of course, you can download the free app to track those storms yourself. If you want to keep eyes on it behind the scenes, make sure that we're doing our job up here at Mississippi Live Weather. Trust me, we are. But if you want to make or double check that, well, of course, you are welcome to download the app today, free and available on iOS and Android.